Rotted Reviews, and the 2020 Advent Calendar of Christmas horror movies continues on, this time with the recent release, Toys of Terror. Available to rent or buy currently pretty much everywhere. You go to justwatch.com, it's a laundry list. Amazon Prime, iTunes Store, the whole bit. Directed by Nicholas Verso, this movie was written by Dane Gould, who, if you don't recognize the name, he was the creator and showrunner of the canceled Too Early series, Stan vs. Evil. And in my opinion, basically what we have here is a very decently mediocre Christmas horror movie that has some laughs and some thrills. Nothing terribly spectacular, but also way better than I thought it would be. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. This is December 8th. I've been 8 days into this Advent calendar, and traditionally, I've already been hurting by this point. Christmas horror movies tend to shift tides a little bit when it comes to the good and bad ratio, and honestly, this year has been a joy. So I'm glad to say that this movie, I was expecting it to start the derailment process, and it just didn't. It was actually enjoyable at the very least, even if it was some standard tired tropes and not really breaking any new ground. What I saw, I liked. So this movie opens up with Hannah and David, a couple that has gotten together and merged their families, so now they have kind of a Brady Bunch thing going. Meanwhile, they are also working together towards flipping properties, basically. And this one that they have their eye on, they're also going to be spending Christmas in with their family.
Balls!
I said no phones.
I don't have one.
So why would you just say balls?
I don't know, I just did.
You shouldn't laugh.
Okay.
And it just happens to be an old abandoned children's hospital / care center. They got shuttered for mysterious reasons. Sounds like a great way to spend Christmas. And sure enough, things start going right to shit when they come across a toy chest in one of the children's rooms there, and in it is full of nostalgic toys and so forth that get played with, but obviously start to develop a mind of their own and start wreaking havoc upon the family and the house. So this had kind of the feel of a whole lot of movies amalgamated into this one entry here. Kind of reminded me of Demonic Toys, which I don't recommend. A little splash of The Orphanage, which I do recommend. And a hint of Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, which But regardless, I do think that it was a bit of a romp. And I think that that's honestly one of the best ways that I can explain it. It wasn't a great movie. I'm not going to pretend that it was. And I see people on IMDb. I'm going to confess here, I typically really try and avoid looking at everybody else's opinion or anybody else's opinion before watching a movie that I'm going to review. And every once in a while, curiosity does get the better of me, as it did in this case, and I was watching people on IMDb review this one with a 1-star rating saying it was the worst horror movie they've ever seen. And it just really, the only thing that springs to mind is, holy shit, you need to watch some more horror movies. If this is the worst you've ever seen, your bar is skewed. You need to lower that shit, and the best way to do that is to watch more bad movies. Watch Velocipaster, watch Llamageddon, watch Dead Squad, Temple of the Undead. Really throw yourself into it, because not only are there gems, but it also gives you a little bit of calibration when you start talking about the worst horror movies you've ever seen. It helps to actually watch shit like The Goocher, where you can back that claim up properly. So no, I don't agree that this was the worst horror movie ever made. I honestly don't even agree that it was a bad movie. I just had fun with it, and I think that's kind of the name of the game. There were some touching moments in it. Yes, there was some hammy acting. Yes, there was some cringeworthy moments with the child actors especially. Yes, some of the special effects were a little sketchy, but considering that they were trying things that historically are not easy, like proper stop motion of the toys, and pulling it off reasonably well, certainly not terribly, I was kind of astounded. I was expecting way more things hanging off a fishing line than I was actually seeing some good or passable stop motion.
Pain is fun!
And the fact that it was there was a delight. So, yeah, this had some really silly moments in it. It was absolute delight to watch these toys with big old smiles on their faces and cutesy, cherubic cheeks and so forth, causing all this mayhem and going through this, as well as actually having some decently heartfelt moments when we're watching this family kind of struggle against the trials that are going on there, who believes who at any given point about any given thing. It becomes a bit of butting of heads and some distrust, and that I think sold it somewhat well in that regard. So I'm not even going to give this my good bad seal of approval, because I don't think that it was a bad movie for it to be a good bad movie. It was just simply a good, mediocre, middle of the road, well-worn trope Christmas horror movie. And although that's not something that I'm going to be completely pounding on people's doors and recommending to them, if somebody asks me, hey Mike, what's a good Christmas horror movie? I guarantee this one won't even pop up into my brain. But I do think that there's a place for enjoyable, mediocre films, and that's pretty much what I'm saying I got out of this one. So take that for what you will. Call that a soft recommendation if you like. Regardless, I enjoyed my watch of Toys of Terror. Thank you very much for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow on my next review. We're going to open that next door in the advent calendar. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.